She purchased an injured German Shepherd for just $5. Everyone said it was a terrible decision. But only days later, the dog did something that left her collapsing in tears. What she believed was just a broken stray turned out to be something far more unbelievable, and it ended up moving an entire town. Lily was only 7 years old. She often said, "Someday I'll meet my true best friend." That day came much earlier than anyone had imagined. While walking with her grandfather through a neighbor's old, worn-down property on the outskirts of town, Lily noticed something shift near a rusted-out barn. There, lying in a mix of straw and muddy ground, was a German Shepherd, thin, limping with dull eyes, a body marked by scars and loosely tied to a fence post like he meant nothing. When Lily questioned the man about the dog, he simply shrugged. "He's useless now. Hurt his leg. If you want him, $5. Lily glanced up at her grandfather with wide eyes. Then she reached into her jacket and pulled out 5 crumpled dollar bills. Her hand shook slightly as she offered the money. Every penny she had saved from helping her grandma collect eggs and sweep the porch each weekend. The man grabbed the money without care, muttering, "He's your problem now." But to Lily, the dog, whom she would soon call Bruno, wasn't a burden. He was a promise. Her grandfather paused. "Are you sure, sweetheart?" She nodded with certainty. "He needs someone. I think he chose me." They slowly untied the rope, careful not to scare him. Bruno didn't resist. He stood, weak but ready, and silently followed Lily. That quiet moment was the beginning of something special. When they got home, Lily set up a cozy bed in the barn, warm blankets and fresh water waiting for him. She knelt by his side, gently petting his matted fur. "You're safe now, Bruno," she whispered. The name came to her instinctively. For the first time, the dog sighed softly, as if he understood, as if he knew he finally had a place. In the first few days, Bruno barely moved. He hardly ate. His limp was worse than Lily had thought, and he flinched at every loud sound. He never barked, never growled, just watched the world with eyes filled with exhaustion and pain. Lily stayed by his side constantly, reading him bedtime stories, offering pieces of her sandwich, and even placing her favorite stuffed toy next to him at night. Her grandparents watched quietly, uncertain if the dog would ever recover. Surviving or learning to trust again seemed impossible. But Lily refused to give up. Each morning she greeted Bruno cheerfully with a bright, "Good morning, buddy," and each night she gently tucked him in as if he were her little brother. Gradually, something began to change. One evening, as Lily quietly hummed to herself while brushing away some hay, Bruno gave a small, hesitant wag of his tail. It was barely noticeable, but to Lily it meant the world. That single wag confirmed what she had already sensed deep down. Bruno wasn't just recovering physically, he was starting to feel safe. And more than that, he was beginning to love again. Not long after, Lily's grandfather began to notice unusual behaviors in Bruno. One evening, as the television hummed in the background, a military documentary began playing. As soon as the sound of marching boots came through the speakers, Bruno snapped to alert. His ears perked up, his body went rigid. He stood at full attention like a soldier hearing a command he recognized. Lily saw it too. "Grandpa, why did he do that?" she asked softly. The next morning, something even more unexpected occurred. Lily accidentally dropped a bucket full of grain, and before she could react, Bruno leapt forward, placing himself between her and the sudden noise, alert, protective, and calculating. Later that day, in a moment of play, Lily pointed her finger like a pretend gun and shouted, "Bang!" Instantly, Bruno dropped to the ground, playing dead. No one had ever taught him that. Her grandfather, watching from the porch, frowned deeply. "That dog's had training," he said in a low voice. "Real training, not just tricks." Lily looked down at Bruno, now peacefully resting beside her. Maybe he'd forgotten who he truly was, until now. Then came the moment that would change everything. It was near sunset. Lily had wandered a bit too close to the woods behind the farm, chasing a butterfly with Bruno trailing just behind. The tall grass whispered in the still air, until suddenly a rustle came from the bushes. Out of nowhere, a wild boar burst forth, snarling, charging straight at Lily. She froze, heart hammering, unable to move. But Bruno didn't hesitate. In a flash, he launched himself in front of her, barking with a thunderous force that echoed through the trees. With sharp, precise movements, he dodged and circled the boar, never backing down. He growled and snapped until the animal finally turned and fled back into the woods. When the danger had passed, Bruno calmly returned to Lily, licking her hand as if nothing had happened. The next morning, her grandfather made up his mind. "We need to take him in," he said quietly. "Get him checked, properly this time." They brought Bruno to the town's modest animal clinic, a small building tucked between the local feed store and a warm-smelling bakery. Dr. Simmons, the town's veterinarian, welcomed them kindly and began a thorough examination of the dog. As he moved his hands over Bruno's neck and shoulders, he paused, frowning slightly. "There's something here," he murmured, gently pressing into the dog's fur. A few moments later, he extracted a tiny metallic object, an embedded chip, slightly damaged but still readable. With a handheld scanner, Dr. Simmons ran it over the chip. What appeared on the screen made his eyes widen. This dog, he's not a stray, he's a military K9 designated Bravo 9, presumed killed in action 2 years ago, during a transport explosion. Lily's breath caught in her throat. "Bruno," she whispered, tears forming as she dropped to her knees beside him. Bruno leaned in and licked her cheek, calm and gentle, as if reassuring her that everything was okay now. "You were a hero long before I found you," Lily murmured, stroking his fur. "But now, you're my hero too." In that moment, the $5 dog became something far more than anyone had imagined. A symbol of how even the broken can become protectors, how lost souls can still save lives. News of Bruno's past spread quickly. Dr. Simmons, deeply moved by what he'd discovered, contacted a local journalist who had once served in the military himself. Just days later, the story ran in the town newspaper with the headline, "Forgotten K9 Hero Found by 10-year-old Girl." The response was overwhelming. People started arriving at the farm, some bringing treats for Bruno, others just wanting to see the legendary dog who had somehow returned from the dead. Neighbors who had once kept their distance were now leaving thank you notes and dog bones on the porch. One retired soldier even drove across 2 counties just to shake Lily's hand and salute the dog. "He didn't just save lives on the battlefield," the man said, voice heavy with emotion. "He reminded us all what loyalty really means." Lily stood before the small crowd that had gathered and looked down at Bruno, who sat patiently by her side. I didn't know who he really was when I handed over that $5, she began, her voice trembling. All I knew was that he needed someone. And maybe I did too. She paused, wiping away a tear with the sleeve of her shirt. People say I rescued him, but honestly, I think he rescued me first. The crowd went silent. Bruno, steady and calm, stood close beside her, his tail gently wagging as if he understood every single word. Lily bent down, wrapped her arms around his neck and whispered, "You're my best friend." And in that quiet moment, not a single person in the crowd could hold back their tears.